We got the weekly developer update from Rocksteady and Suicide Squad for April 26th. This looks like a pretty big one, so we definitely got to jump in it. And I took a sneak peek, and there are some really good things. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this stuff. But yeah, let's jump right into it. Greetings, people of Metropolis. In this week's developer update, we're going to show some of the gameplay changes we have planned for episode 2. Now, episode 2 is still a ways out, weeks, I think about 3 weeks or so. From looking at both our internal data and listening to the community sentiment, we've worked on a series of improvements that we believe will make for a better experience in terms for hunting for new gear, fighting Brainiac's forces, and overall quality of life. Below is a list of several changes that we plan to implement when episode 2 releases next month. Infamy tier rework. Let's talk infamy sets, notorious items, and loot rollout. Our intent with the distributing of the infamy set tiers and notorious items across the mastery levels was to have more gentle onboarding to the increasing complexity of the infamy sets and build configurations. The intent was basically that you would progress through the mastery levels, the content would get harder, but you would get infamy sets to counter that. And as long as you play into your build, you wouldn't really have to struggle until you hit higher mastery levels. That's definitely not true. Having the most build permutations happen at the later mastery levels meant that we didn't really get the build meta going until the very late in our endgame, which left many players wondering where all the juicy build construction was hiding, because there isn't. You really only can play one single way with one single build and one single, almost, well, really 2 characters. I guess this episode is kind of built for 2 specific characters and then just done for a specific type of build. There's not much variety. There's really not. With episode 2, we're turning that completely on its head. All infamy tiers and notorious items will be possible to acquire starting from mastery level 1. That's interesting. Good. And good for people that are still casually playing, barely playing. You know, that's going to help them a lot. You can still rely on the episode rank rewards, and predictability and reliability give you all the loot the episode has to offer, but now you have a chance to get tier 3 infamy set drops from mastery 1. In addition to this, we're changing our philosophy when it comes to the infamy set tiers. Our original intent was that tier 1 was the easiest to play, but also the lowest power potential, and tier 3 was the hardest to play, but had the highest damage potential. Of course, the way our mastery levels are balanced at higher mastery levels, that meant that tier 3 was pretty much the only viable infamy set. I mean, really, it's the same with afflictions too. There's really only one type of viable affliction, especially at the super higher tiers. Anyways, our new philosophy is essential to flatten out the power difference between the tiers and create space, the tiers, and the freedom they have to offer. In episode 2, each tier 1 infamy set will be designed around a few specific playstyles. You'll see 1 or 2 core mechanics are buffed, and keeping uptime on these buffs won't be a challenge. That means optimal tier 1 play will encourage you to master those specific core mechanics. If you can handle that, you'll be able to reach damage outputs that were previously only possible with a tier 3 set. On the other end of the spectrum, tier 3 will be the most flexible in terms of core mechanics. Our goal is that you to leverage pretty much any play style using tier 3. However, it will be the most complex infamy set when it comes to the uptime. You'll have to use all the skills and keep the buffs going, but it will pay off that you'll have the freedom in which core mechanics are used. Tier 2 sits somewhere in the middle. When episode 2 launches, we'll be watching closely to see how this new approach to the infamy set is working, so stay tuned in future updates. I mean, I want to say, like, when you play some of these incursions, there is only one single play style to get it done. Depending on which incursion it is, you can only really do one type of playstyle per incursion. There's really not a lot of variety. And they didn't even mention afflictions, which is a little bit disappointing. There's afflictions that seriously need a buff. There's afflictions that you cannot build whatsoever in any tier almost, which is also kind of disappointing. I wish they would focus on some of that rather than necessarily a play style. I'd rather them focus on diversity of builds and items, even when it comes to legendary, maybe boost those up a little bit. Introducing new grades of master items. With the flattening of the infamy set tiers, we want to make sure that there's still something to chase in the later mastery levels. That's why we're introducing an additional 4 mastery grades for a total of 5 that infamy and notorious items could drop with. Each grade will be more powerful than the last, and you can expect highest mastery 5 to only drop from the very high mastery levels. I mean, that's pretty cool. That gives you something to try to grind to get to that, tier 200. And yeah, maybe get mastery 5. I mean, where the cutoff is, they obviously didn't say, but it gives people a reason to keep going, Corrupted items. One piece of feedback we've heard since launch is that players didn't have enough reason to play the mayhem missions after beating them for the first time. We think you'll have just the right reward for you to fight for. Introducing corrupted notorious items. These twisted pieces of gear have been subjected to Elseworld's corruption, changing their unique augment to provide a warped and seriously powerful version of the weapon. Being able to build around these corrupted effects is a path to some of the highest power in the game. So corrupted notorious items will be very rare drops from the episode 2 mayhem missions, but trust us, their power will be worth it. That's good to know. Give us a reason to play the mayhem missions. Definitely. I would definitely grind them. If there's specific gear only for that is super powerful, I'd do it. To give an example, we'll have to give you a sneak peek at one of the upcoming notorious items in episode 2, Firefly's Firestorm. The standard version of this red hot grenade sets all enemies hit on fire. Oh my god, another burn. And increases the radius of your next grenade by 50% for each enemy you burn, up to a maximum of 200%. The corrupted version of this heats up even more. Burn every enemy hit, but instead of increasing the blast radius, increased damage of your next grenade is buffed by 200% for each enemy you burn, up to a maximum of 1,000. Definitely juicy. This is a taste of the power you'll be able to harness with the corrupted items if you're brave enough to face Brainiac to find them. You can expect more of these items in the future. Breaking down items from Mission Complete. To me, this is probably the biggest news in the whole entire article. I did glance through the titles and I saw this and I was like, thank you, Jesus. Inventory management in the game is atrocious, and having the ability to break down the items, because once you get to end game, 99% of all the stuff you get at the end of your missions is garbage and you don't want it. You're just hunting for specific pieces, specific master items. There's no reason, so might as well just break it down. We're really happy to announce that with the launch of episode 2, you'll be able to break down items straight from the Bat Pod drop in the mission reward screen. This is the first of several quality of life changes that we have planned for our inventory system, so watch out for more info here in future developer updates. So this is absolutely huge. They do at least state that the inventory management system is, they have other changes in mind. And I think one of those systems would be a tab specifically for gear, some sort of sorting method to where it will alphabetize the items so you know how many of one specific item you have. And you could delete those. Also a stash, obviously. So you could be one of those guys that even though it might be an item that you possibly could never use, you could master it, you could elite it, you could put all the best augments on it and then just stash it and then put it in there for a rainy day. Who knows? Maybe later down the road, there might be some sort of build that requires some sort of item so you can have a stash for something that you might never use in the next, month or 2 months, maybe even this whole season. Hopefully stuff like that will come, other than just the breaking down items. Breaking down items, though, is still absolutely huge. Mutators rework. First off, let's talk about mutators. Our intent with these was to give enough friction in the mastery level journey that you would want to reconsider your builds and push into changing your tactics as you progress through the mastery levels. Now, again, I do want to comment, mutators do not change your tactics. They force you into a specific tactic because they're all effing the same, and it requires you to not only use specific afflictions, but use specific playstyles, use specific items. And I think mutators do more harm than good when you talk about diversity and variety. It limits the pool and limits your options when it comes to what you want to do. So I hope that this rework, what we're getting ready to read, is going to change that to where we can build different things. Some mutators were supposed to be less critical things, and some mutators like Venom Frenzy, Immunity were supposed to really push you into experimenting with new builds. Once you reach a certain mastery level, essentially we wanted you to promote a more direct change in the meta to provoke new loadout configurations. Did not do that. Was more of a stick approach and less of a carrot. With episode 2, we're fundamentally changing our approach to these mutators. Rather than introducing friction to encourage to build diversity, which they didn't do, we're changing these to instead be gameplay bonuses. Each mutator in episode 2 will give you a window of opportunity to take advantage of its effect. And the gameplay benefit is something you want to be able to build around. We don't expect you to be able to build around all 6 mutators realistically. We want you to find 2 or 3 you really like and you can leverage with that build you like. These mutators are build enhancers. Our intent isn't that we will define your build, but rather than some of them fit your build and make you want to run it even more powerful. A couple of new mutators to illustrate to this approach are Desperation and Extra Fries. Desperation boosts your damage for 75% for every 10% of your shield missing, incentivizing a high-risk, high-reward playstyle that works great with Bizarros on Death Ray. Or Hot Potato. Yo, give us a reason to play Hot Potato for real. That grenade does massive damage. It's just it depletes your shield so fast. But if you're getting that extra bonus, that 75% with that Hot Potato, I mean, just base damage, you could drop over a mil. Extra Fries grants 1-player combo for every critical hit on a burning enemy, allowing fire builds to get off to a blazing start. Yay, more fire! While the new builds offer a variety of buffs, you still have to build and play creatively to get full benefit. New Incursion mission mechanics. Let's move on to our Incursion mission. Our original intent with these mission types was to give you all a known foundation, i.e. activity mechanics, and that the enemy types, infusion types, and character traversal mechanics in your build, weapon types, gear, afflictions, etc. would provide in the variety in terms of how you approach the encounter. That variety was supposed to change up as you progress through the mastery level. With the introduction of mutators, your build would change. And that would be different for each incursion as you progress through the mastery levels. Again, we were using more of a stick approach and less of a carrot. With friction into the system to encourage changing of builds and tactics. With the launch of episode 2, Lex 2 has done an analysis of the enemies in each of the incursion encounters and will provide an ample named Lex 2 enemy analysis bonus to help out the squad. Each new incursion mission will have its own analysis that identifies weaknesses on the enemy, and these weaknesses make builds really shine. Come on, man, let's get some freaking other afflictions in here for real. I'm so sick of seeing burn on everything. During his analysis of the mission funny pages, Lex 2 has discovered that burning enemies will take double damage from all sources. Time for Joker to get out there and turn up the heat. And the Seaside Amusements, it seems that the squad's critical hits will deal 150 more damage. If the build accordingly, they might actually stand a chance. See how you can use Lex 2 enemy analysis to your advantage in episode 2. I mean, I get that, Venom Frenzy, huge in the first, season 0 or whatever. Sure, burn was broken in the very beginning, which is why everybody used it in the beginning. And it was already a little bit old, but it was busted. Wasn't intentional. But we were forced to use Venom Frenzy in pretty much everything in season 0. And now, obviously, it's changed. They put on some mutators that cause Venom Frenzy not to work so well. And, those sort of things might change with episode 2. But they're kind of focusing on burn. Like, why can't we get any love with any of the other afflictions? I mean, I get maybe season 2, since it's an ice thing, and at least the characters are coming, with Miss Freeze. She'll probably have ice for season 2, but then that's going to force us to use ice and freeze. I mean, I want to be able to use what a way to use whatever I want without being so punished by everything. Crafting recipes from previous episodes. In another quality of life feature for episode 2, we'll be adding crafting recipes for the most of the legendary items that you can find in the Finite Crisis in episode 1. Now you can straight up craft them even if you haven't received them as a loot drop. That only applies to gear from previous episodes. So the latest and greatest loot is exactly where you expect to find it. Expect it in mission rewards. Crafting mastery items. One additional thing that we're adding to crafting in episode 2 is that there is now a chance for items to be crafted as master versions. That means that there's this chance you'll get a master version of an item each time you craft it, which of course is true for all crafting recipes, regardless of the episode they were introduced in. For the higher grade versions of items, mastery 2 through 5, you'll still have to venture into Elseworlds to score them. However, I think a lot of people will probably say that they like this. Me personally, this is certainly not my thing. I don't want to sit in front of Penguin, the vendor, and just craft and 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 try to get a mastery drop. It's not any fun. I'd rather go out and play. I'd rather try to get the drops. I'd rather, even if it's difficult, I'd rather play the game rather than sit there at a vendor and craft over and over and over and over again just to try to get a mastery item. That just seems really silly to me. I know a lot of people like this idea, but I personally don't. Lower Promethium cost for missions in episode 2. We'll be doing a pretty big balancing changes to all Promethium costs across Incursion missions, Mayhem missions, and Killing Time missions. This is the first step in a deeper review in our different currencies and their use, but it's intended to cut down the time you spend gathering Promethium before your squad can take on more serious missions. The main source of Promethium is still Raising Hell. You'll get a whopping 3,000 Promethium for completing the first tier, an increasing amount for each tier. You also get a Promethium from playing the Metropolis missions, taking out Cargonauts and your care packages, and from contracts. Don't forget, you'll 50% XP boost for 45 minutes in the first Metropolis mission you complete. Each subsequent mission refreshes this timer. You'll be efficient. You will only really need to play the Metropolis mission every 45 minutes. Now, Promethium for me has never been a thing. I don't know. Maybe I just played it too much or something like that game, but I have 250 some odd thousand Promethium. I have never had a problem, getting Promethium. I don't know. Maybe I did Raising Hell too much earlier, or maybe I killed too many Cargonauts, or maybe I just grinded other missions or whatever. But whatever the reason is, I have absolutely zero problem with Promethium. I know there are people that struggle with this, so at least they're giving ways for people to get it so they could do the incursions. Additional invasion levels. With episode 2, we'll be adding additional 3 invasion difficulties for Metropolis, each with unique rewards, XP, and resource bonuses. To address the feedback from all you, Metropolis is getting too easy when you're fully kitted out with a proper build. All these changes will be made in the patch shortly before the launch of episode 2. This will be the next patch. This will be the next patch for the game. We're eagerly looking forward to implementing these changes and hope you enjoy your time in Elseworld until then. So overall impressions, the new Incursion mission mechanics, I do like this. The thing with the Lex 2, how he does his research, gives you like bonuses, 1 to burning enemies. I don't like the fact that it keeps being burned and stuff. But, the other one for critical hits, those are the 2 examples they used. I do like that. I like the mutator rework, how it gives you bonuses instead of negatives. I wish some of those bonuses would reflect, again, other afflictions and other types of builds. Breaking down items from mission complete. This is probably the biggest thing, and the inventory management system. I talked about it before. Gotham Knights. The reason why we stopped playing Gotham Knights and doing videos on the channel was because their inventory system was never addressed. It was such a problem, and it was so bad and so frustrating that it got to a point where I just quit the game completely and have not and will not probably ever get back on Gotham Knights because the inventory management system is absolute garbage. So I'm definitely glad that they're addressing this and putting this breakdown item. To me, that is absolutely huge. And then hopefully they're making other changes. They said they have several quality of life changes coming. So that's going to be really big. I think that's one of the biggest things in here. If they put in a stash, I think just those two things would just make my day or make my whole game. I mean, the game would be almost infinitely more enjoyable just with those two features for quality of life. Corrupted items, again, that's really cool. Being able to give you a reason to go out and do mayhem missions and do stuff like that to try to get these really interesting pieces. Again, it has burn in it, but whatever. New grades on the mastery items give you a reason to climb mastery ranks even higher. I think that's even awesome. Infamy tier rework. I didn't really like too much what they said here. Kind of, I just don't like I just really don't like how each of the seasons is forced towards one affliction, and that's pretty much how it is. I mean, I understand the mechanic behind it. I do think they are balancing it out a little bit more. We'll have to wait and see on how much actual diversity that they're claiming that you're going to be able to do with this. I mean, I guess it's good that they're trying to make adjustments and they're trying to make changes because they recognize that how the system was before was not good. It wasn't. And they're trying to change it. And so much respect for listening to the community and doing that. We've had a couple pretty bad developer update posts the last couple weeks, and this is a really good one. We got a lot of stuff that we wanted to hear. And I'm excited for this, and I'm excited for episode 2. So hopefully we get more news soon. And next week, like I said, I do anticipate at least 2 weeks, but I think probably 3 weeks, 3 weeks from now or 3 weeks from yesterday, it'll probably be released. But either way, yeah, hopefully you did enjoy. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this stuff, and I'll see y'all next time. Y'all take it easy. We're out. Peace.